We're back with our guest today, David Sumrall. He's a Christian filmmaker, J6 expert, and has been really keeping us abreast of what's been going on for the last 5 years almost now in regards to the political persecution that actually happened here in the United States of America. So, David, thanks for joining me on Patriot Radio again.
Hey, it's great to be here again with you today.
So, stophate.com, people can keep up with a lot of what you're doing there. Now, last I was tracking was about 2 or 3 J6ers that were actually still in prison. What's the status right now?
So we got Dan Wilson out last week, thank God, and thank Trump. Better late than never. We've waited 10 months. He actually surrendered after the pardon back into the prison system, and it just took this long to get through these activist judges and what they're trying to rule on these secondary charges. We still have a couple of guys that are still in prison, and we still have a few more that could go back. And I don't think people realize that this same administration is still putting us through the rigors. And, maybe it's for more exposure, maybe it's for more points on the board, but right now these people are feeling it. They need to be back with their families. We understand it's war, but gosh, the pain points these J6ers have suffered for 5 years, and it's time to put an end to that.
So who are the 2 that are left in prison right now, and why? Have they already been pardoned?
Yes, actually, they have been pardoned. Edward Kelly is one of them. He has been accused of threatening FBI agents. Now, granted, if he did, that would be one thing. I don't know that he even did, but I wouldn't be mad at him if he, they came to his house over and over and terrorized and put him in jail. All these things. Enough is enough, and even if he did say don't come back, I don't know what level that is, and there's a lot of controversy about his case. Another one is Dylan Harrington. He's in jail because a girl of several months after they had an encounter said, maybe that wasn't consensual. And so they put him in jail as well. It's politically driven, motivated, 100%. We just need to prove who her parents are, who she is, what her history is as well. But the poor guy's sitting in prison, and once again, as a J6 or being accused of one or whatever, like it's a bad thing. So we see the systematic thing, and the guys that could go back are from those secondary charges as well, from the raid where they might have found something that they said didn't belong. And then they separate the charges during trial, and they put them on 2 different, classes basically. And then when you get pardoned for the one, well, you still have this secondary charge, but fruit of the poison tree means they found it during that J6 raid. They should not be able to hold that over their head, because if it wasn't for J6, they wouldn't have been there in the first place. So the travesty, the activists in black robes are really wearing us out still. And I think more and more over the last few days, even with Ted Cruz a couple weeks ago, what Boasberg did was intentional. I think we're getting to the bottom of this finally.
Yeah, it looks like they might be actually pursuing impeachment finally of a federal judge, which, I mean, it's about time. And I know that Nayib Bukele down in El Salvador said you're going to have to tackle the issue regarding judges in the United States if you want to see true reformation and a return to real justice in the United States.
Well, let me just say real quick, I've got a pending case myself. I'm trying to sue the FBI for the information that, they keep sending people to my house. Just 3 weeks ago, maybe 4, they sent an agent from the FBI and one from Homeland to ask questions about my comments about a judge and jury in an ongoing J6 case that I believe are breaking the law, doing bad things. And I said they belong in prison. So they come to my house to ask me about my comments and said I didn't do anything wrong, didn't break any laws, and didn't cross any lines. They're just here to check a box. So I want to know why. So I FOIA'd the information, and we're getting slow-rolled on that. They don't want to tell us who asked them to come to my house and intimidate me, who checked the box, who made the box. And this is one of those things the American public as well doesn't know. I mean, a social media post saying that a judge and juror deserve to go in prison for, maliciously putting this J6er in harm's way with, fake evidence and everything else. And we have the proof. I testified in the trial myself, and I kind of know what's going on. And, I asked him, I said, why don't you ever investigate what we're talking about instead of investigate us for saying it out loud? And it just seems like more of that strong arm bully stuff. And I thought it was over from the last administration. Here we are under Trump and Cash, and they're knocking on my door again. So it's not the most comfortable feeling, but it is very comfortable when you realize how much over the target you are. And now the court is pushing back, saying, well, you need to kind of narrow your scope. We don't really know what you're trying to do. And if it's to try to show that we're bad people, you can't do that. And yes, I can. Yes, I will. And yes, we are. And I believe that that's what these judges, every one of them from the J6 saga could go away forever, and it would help our system. just not the misinterpretation, but the malicious prosecutions, the things that they put against these folks. They would not let them use the evidence they had. They could not use the First Amendment. And as we saw in the pardons, no one got due process. Well, that's a system-wide issue. That's the judges working with the prosecutors, working with the media for all these lies and doubling down on the narrative. So why is that not just as intentional as what Ted Cruz said about Boasberg? Because Boasberg's a J6 judge too. So we've got Kelly, we've got Friedrich, we've got all of them that, Watson or whatever his, Reggie. There's people that shouldn't be on the bench, and we want to expose that. If we have to do the military tribunals, hey, I'm fine with that, because I know that my appeal got taken and given right back to Judge Chutkin. So she's going to be the one deciding whether or not the information that I want is good or not, and if I should be able to do it or not. One of the same people that's trying to cover up the J6 crimes in the first place. It's almost laughable. It's just more work for us, but we're willing to do it.
I mean, the purpose behind freedom of information and, in Washington State, it's the Public Records Act, was exactly this. It wasn't to give information because it was going to make everybody feel good. It was to shine light into the darkness and to reveal things that really needed to be dealt with and the public needed to know about for the purposes of elections or initiatives or referendums or what have you, to reform the system, right?
That's right. Well, and 6 visits to my house, never had charges, never had a warrant, never been arrested, never did anything wrong. They just always want to come and ask me questions. And I want to know, when is enough enough? And who do I talk to about that to make sure that they never come back to my house again, never intimidate my family and make them think that, hey, daddy could be hauled away tomorrow morning. They came and knocked on the door, and we saw that for years. They come do the interview, and then a couple days later, they'll come kick your door in and say you're a terrorist or something. And I just want the truth revealed. I've been about that all my life, and this whole January 6th transition into the history books, and it needs to be done properly and efficiently. If we won the battle and we won, the victory is ours, we need to be able to put the story in the history book that's accurate, not this make-believe fable that they keep doubling down on. They're teaching it in our colleges, they're teaching it in our textbooks, and so many different groups are experiencing the same lawfare from these judges, whether it's the weaponized against the school parents with Merrick Garland, or the J6ers, or Tina Peters, people that are involved in this election. So we're seeing this long string being pulled, and hopefully Trump is doing it masterfully, and a lot of people are upset with him, but I think he's still got his finger on what needs to be done.
I do too. It's interesting, back with talking about the Bundy Ranch, talking about the Malheur Refuge. There was an incident up in Priest River. In those cases, eventually did receive justice. A jury acquitted in the one case, and in the other, the judge dismissed with prejudice because of prosecutorial. These are the judge's words: prosecutorial misconduct. And we see these things, but really, for me, the question is, what about speedy trial? I mean, if we go back historically in the American judicial system, the whole reason we had speedy trial put in there is because people were being locked up for years without having the opportunity to present their case and come before a jury of their peers. And so we're seeing this replay. We saw it replay in the cases I just talked about, and with the J6ers as well.
Well, I think this is it. I'm a builder, and if I need to slow a job down, I know where to slow it down. I'll blame the weather, I'll blame the rain, whatever it is, if that were the case. And I think these politicians and judges are the best at it. Look at the 1512 that they used against people for 3 years. An illegal charge, not applicable, did not fit the crime. Nobody was trying to get to the ballots. And yet for 3 years, they were able to intimidate people into taking these lesser plea deals. And then they wouldn't put that they threatened them with a 1512 into the public record or into the court record, so it doesn't show up. It just looks like a bunch of people took plea deals to just, okay, I did it, you got me. And it doesn't reflect that 1512. So when you go back and search, you can't see that that was used against. So look, you got 4 misdemeanors, and if you don't sign here, I'm going to add the 1512. No, I'll sign here. Okay, then I'm not going to write down that 1512 stuff. That is so wrong and illegal and immoral, and it's not justice. And I think that's what J6ers have screamed from day one. Just release all the video. Let the cards fall where they will. Find out who the real bad guys are, and it's not us, and we're standing, and we're not running, and we're not hiding, and we'll turn ourselves into prison, and we'll serve because we know we're not wrong, and you can't take that from us. And I don't think the government has ever seen a breed of people like this for hundreds of years. I think it's that founding fathers pissed off mentality of we're not going to take it anymore. And I think that's really where we need to be if we're going to direct our own ship, drive our own car, however you want to say it. We can't let these same jackwagons in the uniparty on both sides that have now all been exposed keep running our business for us. We have to take it over. And listen, if Trump said he's given the power to the people in 2016, we need to figure out how to communicate with him. I'm working with some people and some groups and some lawyers to try to work on a citizens panel where we can actually communicate directly with the president, whether it's monthly, bi-monthly, quarterly, biannually, however we can work this out. We need to be sitting at the table so he can hear directly from us with no filter from politicians, no spin from the media, just directly from both sides. This is not a conservative panel. This is an American panel because we have to get back to the basics, back to God and back together. And we have to have some grace for the other side. That's a thing that so many people are missing right now, is that you can't rub this in. If you've ever been tricked, it's a horrible feeling. And it's not right for us to double down on that. These people need us. If we are truly family, it's time to stand together and say, look, you've been tricked for years and I don't want to make it worse. I want to help you. And we can do this together. We have to do this if we're going to be a successful country in the future.
You know, and some of the things that you were talking about clearly go against at least the spirit of the Constitution. So when we come back from the break, let's talk a little bit about Tina Peters and what her case looks like right now and how she may actually receive freedom and justice.
What if I told you could convert your 401k or your IRA into gold? While your retirement is being beat up by a volatile stock market and inflation, it could instead be resting safely in physical gold at a place of your own choosing, including your own business. Look, gold has increased 50% in just the last year. Stock market, it's been nothing but a roller coaster. So protect your retirement from market chaos by calling Verity Metals today.
And we're back with our guest today, David Sumrall, StopHate.com. Tina Peters, well, not necessarily related to J6, but really kind of related to just that whole thread that's been happening, calling it to account some of the corruption in the election process, still trying to from prison, actually. I think she is ill right now, and it seems like they just want to keep her in there until she dies. What do you know about the status of Tina Peters and what can be done?
Tina is very sick. She is not a young woman. She needs to be home getting proper medical treatment for all of her ailments, whether it's cancer or whatever it is. That's no place for her. She doesn't belong there. And, you know, it's a lot more related than people even think. The J6ers were just the original election auditors that went to show up and say, hey, there's a problem with this because of the work and the courage of people like Tina Peters. And we're friends. And, you know, that's a big difference about her and a lot of other maybe celebrity type. She's not untouchable. People know her. She's friends with people. People have spoken with her before she was arrested, and she was able to forge these bonds. And now we're upset because we know her and she's one of us and she deserves better. And like we said earlier, maybe it's part of that, showing people by example of leaving her. And it's still not right. We see these pain points like real, true suffering. We don't want her to die in there. And we want the president to step up and say, hey, fix it. We see how they've tied his hands. And I want people to understand this is an exercise in display of how our systems have been so rigged against us over decades. The lawfare, the hiding the documentation, the way that they're able to vilify people like Tina Peters for doing her job and hold her in prison indefinitely because of these activist judges and so on. And there has to be those pain points. And unfortunately, we're reaching them. We're getting there. And people are, instead of taking it out on the people they should be taking it out on, they're mad at Trump. Like he can do all, and listen, he can do a lot, and we want him to do as much as he can. But we're the people. We have to do these things. And when we've had enough, it'll be enough. And when we say we're not going to do it like that anymore, that's what it needs to be. And I was reading David Shostokis put out a video the other day, and it was about a bloodless revolution without bloodshed. And I thought, you know, that's a novel idea. We should try that first because nobody wants violence, guys. It doesn't help to fight other people who have the same common enemy, and that's our uniparty. We see that more and more every day. And I'm not anti-constitution. I'm not anti-government. I'm just sick of crooks being in it. You know, a bunch of people that steal tax money and steal investments and do all their, self enrichment while they're in office. and they slow down the wheels of justice for us the whole time. So we're talking about that 1512. That was 3 years that if anybody had been able to get into the court system and say, no, that's not, you can't use that. Oh, you're right. We have to stop now. But for 3 years it went on. This is the same with Tina Peters. We're seeing them put roadblock after roadblock. And I was listening to a video earlier. 107 was on it. And he was just talking about melting the phone lines. And I put a post out earlier. The phone lines in DC are open to the public. We need to melt them every single day, 10, 15,000 calls. Don't let them order pizza. Don't let them make a call out of the office. Make it very difficult. Lock their phones up and show that you want what we want. That look, this is the American people speaking their mind, speaking their voice, peacefully and patriotically like we know to do, but we're going to burn your phone up until it melts into your desk if you don't do what we say. We don't feel represented, and it hurts.
You know, I've heard people talk negatively about populism, and I hear terms conflated, but constitutionally, we have a constitutionally protected right, because our rights come from God, not from man.
That's right.
That in the First Amendment, it is protected for us to petition for a redress of grievances, to lawfully assemble. And the whole purpose behind lawful assembly is to make known to our government and our representatives that something needs to change. So really, it's not populism, it's constitutionalism. We actually are exercising the process in our system. I
think the scariest word for our politicians is activism. You know, when you're active, you're activated, you're proactive, not reactive. And we're taking the fight to them now, and they don't know how to react. You know, J6 was a one of until it's not. You know, you look back at Whitmer, same kind of op. You look back at the Davidians in Oklahoma and the Bundys and all these other ops, you know, 9/11, all these other things that have happened. And you realize it's just the controls. It's just the powers that be flexing on the people every so often to either fear us into following or scare us in some way or financially break us and make us rebuild. It's always been about property since the Salem witch trials. I mean, we're seeing this land grab, and so many J6ers lost that property as well. That's where our security really is, and people have lost sight of because they've been duped with this whole happiness clause. Hey, the pursuit of happiness. That's very elusive. You know, originally it said the ownership of property. But the government said, wait, if they own all the property, they don't need us. We need to change that and make it something they can't ever find. And that's happiness. Look, happiness is serving others. Happiness is helping make this a better place for your kids and grandkids. It's doing that kind of, it's not Netflix and chill. And we misuse our freedoms daily, when we could be doing everything to make this a better place. We're just comfortable to be here and lazy about it. And I think the more people reach these points we're talking about and have this exposure, and people like Tina Peters, I don't want her to become a martyr by any means. But look at what happened to Charlie Kirk and the movement that has taken place because of his death and the exposure against evil that continues. And that was on, you know, September 10th. Here we are a month plus later, 2 months plus later, and everybody's still talking about that daily. So the pain points are being reached. Now we have to know what the work is and what to do. One of those things to do is to call your representatives, call the White House, look for my post on X and dial the number. Just burn it up. Try once a day. If everybody called once a day, that would be plenty. Many hands make light work. These are the action items we've pushed for 5 years, and people just need to do it. You know, the more people to do it, the faster we get to the end. So everybody get on board.
That's right. David Sumrall, thanks for joining me on Patriot Radio today. It's always a pleasure, and thank you for all the work you've done to bring justice, especially when the fight has been hard. Blessings to you. Keep up the fight, brother.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
So what can you do? Visit stophate.com. And people think that the phone calls don't matter. You know what's even more effective than phone calls? Meet with your local representative. Sit down with your local state representative. Sit down with your local congressperson and just ask them a question. What are you doing to change some of these things? You know, we brought up a couple of issues, speedy trial being one of them. I mean, these are already things that are written in, protected by the Constitution. Why aren't they being followed? Well, it's because we have not stood up when we were supposed to. And I know people find it arduous almost, and we're kept busy with all of these things, but maybe half an hour less on Netflix or canceling it altogether, or half an hour less on YouTube, or shutting it off altogether would give us the time to do these things so that our kids and our grandkids can live in peace and prosperity and freedom. Justice always depends on how the government, that's what Romans 13 says, executes. Who's the government of the United States of America? We the people. This is Matt Shea. Thank you for joining me on Patriot Radio today. May God bless all of you. He is making this generation the greatest one. The awakening is here, so keep up the fight.